I thought about how, well, first of all, I get speechless when I realize that it's January and we're still on Zoom having these calls. And by the way, it's a blessing. This is fun for me. So thank you to everyone who participates. And then I also, as the vaccine is being distributed, however, well, I'll just speak for our country. However, disastrously or inefficiently, it brings to mind this idea that maybe the pandemic will end. Well, here, you know what? I have this in my slides. I will present it maybe in an organized way. I'll do my best here. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So I thought about just for now, which, you know, we could have a little humor about, and how now has lasted a very long time. It could be a philosophical state, but there is a future to think about also. And I went to Violet and I said, how can we help children imagine the world to be safe again? And here's why, because we had it, depending on where you're from, and I'm interested in everybody's perspective on this, it was pretty sudden. It was days to weeks at the most to prepare. We were in a crisis place. And of course, I don't need to say how disruptive it was. Now that we have vaccines available, and let's hope more to come, we can maybe start thinking about this idea that the pandemic will end at some point. And so for children, the transition from where we've been to where we will be, which is still unknown. I'm not pretending for a second to know what that will exactly be like. But I know that transitions for all of us can be stressful, even if it's a really good thing, like being out of a pandemic. And for sure, we have months of preparation. I don't know how many months, but let's just say we have months of preparation to maybe help with the stress of this transition. So I did a case with the same girl who's my dream. She's not even a client. She just happens to be amazing at doing Violet's work. And her parents are very generous to let me share what she does and says in the sessions. So with Violet's help, we talked about how to first address what the pandemic's been like before you even think about what it's going to be like after. So I used a bunch of materials just for the ability to show how to use all these things. And I included snacks. I have a learning center. So when kids come to see me, even for therapy sessions, they get snacks. So I delivered those too. And she lives near me. So I delivered puppets and all the materials. You see it, and there's her dog. And here's how I did the structure. I did a check-in with the cards. And I'm going to write this up in more detail. I'm going to go quickly through it just to give you an idea of how it went. Before I even gave her a prompt, she quickly chose the old woman card. And she actually lost a beloved grandmother a few years ago, and she hasn't been able to see her living grandmother. Well, she's seen her distance, but hasn't been able to hug her. And she chose the turtle because time is going so slowly right now. And she elaborated it really well. And I have the whole script that I will put in an article. Then Violet, as you recall, you advised me to have her draw two pictures: the pandemic for now and how you imagine feeling when the pandemic is over. And what is notable here is Lynn, I've actually never done the faucets with her, but each of these are different feelings: regular, sad, mad, and happy. And then all the things she's like to do right now. And then here is the when the pandemic's over, that they will not have to socially distance. And what she talked about is that it would be weird when it's over to hug again, that they're happy, but it feels very strange. Um, and oh, here's what else came out is that she's angry because she knows a lot of people that aren't socially distancing. And so this came up as she was talking about this drawing, that she feels like it's going to be a much longer time to get to this picture because she knows people that are not socially distancing, and that's keeping us from being able to be out of this pandemic. So I took that as a cue to work with anger. And I did a little bit of a cognitive exercise of having her write down things that make her the most amount of angry, and then all the way down to the least amount. So 10 is high and 1 is low. And then I had her pick 2 that she wanted to make out of clay. So she did. She chose a situation that I highlight here with her sister, a big disagreement where she actually ended up, one of the things here, an 8 is hitting. So she picked that because she ended up hitting her sister during a disagreement. And she worked with that, which again is going to be more in detail. And she loved using the mallet on all the parts of the scene. And she talked about it being fun. And she got very expressive with her anger. We then moved to grief. And again, this sounds abrupt. I promise it wasn't. I'm just showing this to you just so that this can be brief. And again, it's more spelled out, and I will share it with everyone. I had her be one part of the picture, and that was the girl alone by herself in a tree. The prompt was, what have you lost during COVID? Oh, good, it's on here. Good. What have you lost during COVID? And it was to be able to be around people. And this girl was very sad, but she did end with a hopeful note that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I then did a past, present, and future with the puppets. And so a few highlights is that the future puppet, which is really a Smurf, has big eyes because we will all end up with big eyes to see the world after this pandemic because we've seen so much. And she's just remarkable in what came out of her in terms of being so profound. But the part that she identified was the figure in the trash can because it was safe in the trash can. And she closed the lid because that was where she wouldn't get COVID. And that's really between the past, had no idea about the present or the future, and was like, what are you talking about? There's a pandemic, I don't even know. And then the present, it was very real to her to be stuck in this trash can, but she did like to be able to surprise people and come out and bug her siblings. I had her also talk about what her schedule is now during COVID, because we're talking about a transition. So these are some of the things that she does that I won't go through the whole list, but everything's online. Everything's virtual except with her family. Weekends too. Everything is watching a movie, playing games online, school is online in California. And then the post-COVID schedule is basically excuse me, back to normal as far as seeing people in person, having her regular activities. I also asked about screen time. Of course, this is the time that I can't talk. Sorry about that. Zev, if you're listening, can you bring me a cough drop or something? Thank you. Um, so she talked basically, screen time went from a necessary evil to a lifeline to what? That's the question. What is it going to be for kids where so much of their lives have been online? And so I'm just having her think about it. I think we're going to be really need to be really gentle about that. What will be easier and what will be harder? So, one thing to highlight here is that she talked about having dysgraphia, which is a difficulty writing. And because she's able to do all her schoolwork on the computer, and maybe she won't be able to after, she said what her last line is: this is making me realize that I actually like online school. Can I stay in online school? And I don't know if Claire's on the call, but one thing that Claire talked about in her beautiful presentation to us is, what can we learn that's worked about this time that we make sure we address after? And so here's an example of something that came out in her reflections. And what I'm proposing for February's Just for Now call is to focus on school and to hopefully have some people from different countries that work in schools so we can talk about this, have a bit of a conversation, because that's going to be a big transition, not for every country, but for ours it will be. Then I had her make a sand tray. How would you like it to be after COVID? So basically, what she would like, these are two people that can be close together. They can go to the ocean and they can go to see horses. But if you notice, I have the arrow there. Oh, thanks. I'm actually okay, but I'll take it. So if you go to the arrow there, there's a metal bar, and that bar is keeping the people from scaring the animals. And I said, oh, well, why would that be? Thanks, hon. Um, why would that be that it would scare the animals? And she said, I don't know why. So I had her be that bar, and she was the bar that was keeping the animals safe from the people. And I said, well, do you need a bar around you when you go? This was at the beach, or when you go horseback riding? She said, no. So I said, why do you think these people would need the bar? And she said, maybe because we're used to it. And we're going to feel like we have a bar around us, which again speaks to where this transition issue is probably something to address. And that's it. Okay, how do I exit out of here? And stop sharing. Okay, so thanks, Lynn. So I'm gonna send the article around, and I presented this to sort of share what Violet, you helped me create in the form. It actually was 2 sessions, and to open up this dialogue of how are we potentially thinking about helping with this transition. I'm open in how we can use these calls, let's say between now and June. Starting in February, would we have some school people come and talk in February? And then what? I'm totally open. And so that is what I wanted to make sure to bring up on this call. So think about it, put it in the chat, email me, as many of you are kind enough to do that. and look forward to how the agenda can sort of be shaped by us as a group um, in the months to come. I have my one of my favorite educators who is a head of school here. She's already agreed, but I'd love to have more countries represented because I know that there's all kinds of different experiences that are happening right now. Okay. Um, and thank you. Thanks for the feedback. And Mara, I'm particularly interested. I sort of started with talking about the experience in Italy and Gian Domenico, who's going to be talking soon. And so I'd love to hear from educators in Italy and other countries that are here. Okay, thank you. Violet, thank you for helping me prepare for it.
Oh my goodness, you're welcome. Very welcome.